Peter Edelman is a personal hero of mine. As a professor of law at Georgetown, in the 1990s, I spent 3 years working on welfare reform. And one of the most heartbreaking aspects of what happened with that disastrous policy was that the administration endorsed a Republican bill, signed it into law. And Peter had the courage and commitment to be the highest ranking Clinton official to resign in protest.
Well, Jerry, thank you for inviting me. It's wonderful to spend a lot of hours in this room and its predecessors, deep in Georgetown. There was Rich Georgetown, there was CCC. What was wrong with that picture? But anyway, here we are, sunshine. So I want to talk to you about what you already know. That's brilliant. Why it's so hard to end poverty in 5 minutes? If we gave him 7, we'd get it done. Anyway, that's not the same as talking about what it is we have to do, because so you won't hear a full list of what our agenda going forward is, but I want to talk about some history and why we are where we are. I won't talk about housing, although the issues about housing and homelessness are certainly front and center, not just in this room, but in some others, but not enough. We certainly can't be successful with housing, however, and this is, I know all of us think, unless we work on all aspects of poverty. We've got to reach people who work on other things besides housing and get them to be part of the housing coalition for change, and that's a two-way street. And I wish I had an easy formula, but it's a challenge that we need to remind ourselves that we can't be out there alone on the housing and homelessness front, and it's a two-way street. Now, this is as we all know, the 50th anniversary of the war on poverty, and we're hearing all over the place, drives me nuts, I'm sure it does you, about how we fought a war against poverty and poverty won. But one of our responsibilities is to say often and very vociferously that that's wrong. That the things that we've done in public policy, actually beginning in the 1930s on up to today, have made a huge difference. Huge difference. And we need to say that because it's too much noise, whether in the electoral context, but just in general, saying that nothing works and indeed arguing that it's made things worse. So we need to speak up and speak out. There would be twice as many people in poverty. There would be 90 plus million, not the 45 that the official numbers tell us, because of everything from Social Security on through the things that we did in the 60s, but on through until now, whether it's food stamps or earned income tax credit, child tax credit, housing vouchers, long list of things on up through the Affordable Care Act and especially Medicaid, but the whole legislation, which is of course just of immense importance in our history. But still, 45 million people are in poverty. So why is that? And I think that's part of what we need to say back to the people who say that nothing works. You know, the fact is that given what I'm about to say, and what you all know anyway, we've done incredibly well. To end up at the end of the 20th century with 11.3% poverty, when it had been, that's almost the lowest it had ever been, 11.1 in 1973. In light of what's happened, that's phenomenal. Now, it's way worse now, which is a combination of sliding in public policy and, of course, the effects of the recession, because it was 31 million when Clinton left office and 45 million now. But just tick off very quickly. I can do, believe me, I can do many hours on the subject, and you'd be out of here. I would love to still talk about you'd be out of here. Number one, we've become a low-wage nation. Well, I have to tell you that. That's the heart of it. Whether it's a question of people who have jobs and are homeless, all the way through, whether it's single moms who are out there with the possibility of only finding one job for their household because there's only one possible breadwinner in the household, and ending up with women who have children being in demographic terms the most low income, the greatest percentage in poverty, well over 40%, bigger than African American, Latino, Native American, as serious as those are. We didn't foresee these things happening. We didn't foresee the change in our labor market, the globalization, the technology, what's happened to unions. And we're not facing up to it as a country. Raising the minimum wage is vital. We're making some inroads finally about that now. That's great. What we need to do to tackle being a low-wage nation is that you have 106 million people who have incomes below twice the poverty line. A third of the people in this country are really basically near poverty, if not in poverty. And then the changes in family structure, also not foreseen. The changes in public education over the course of the decades, exactly when we began to need for everybody to get through high school and even get post-secondary education in order to qualify for the jobs of the 21st century. The mass incarceration if you look back to looking at this forward from 1968, when we had made those gains, I didn't say to you that the specifics of what we did in the 1960s was to cut poverty in half. It was 22% in 1959. It went down to that 11% that I mentioned in 1973. African American poverty went down from 55% in 1959 to 31% in 1973. These great gains made us quite optimistic in 1968 with all of the tragedy that there was of losing Robert Kennedy, losing Dr. King, Edgar, Malcolm, and others. So every one of these things that I'm talking about is something that came on to us when we did not foresee it. Low-wage moms in that terrible labor market, education, mass incarceration, changes in immigration that, of course, are very much part of the work of CC and many of you in this room. The fact that we made not really enough progress, not even progress, on concentrated poverty, inner city, rural, Appalachia, as well as inner city. And then, of course, deep poverty, where we have, by the census, 20 million people with incomes below half the poverty line, below 9,500, as you know. And that's doubled since the mid-70s. The percent has doubled. And of course, that's largely due, without going into, because here I can really go off, what they did to cash assistance for moms and children in our country. And that's the fundamental cause of, it's women and children, again, that's the fundamental cause of where we are in terms of extreme poverty in the country. 6 million people whose only income is from food stamps. It's astonishing. Continuing, again, we thought we would have made more progress on aspects of race. We've made huge progress in many ways. But when you have race and poverty combined, that's just a combustible compound. And of course, similarly for women, women generally have done pretty well. But low-income women, worse off. Then finally, the equality that we all know that we have, and that we've begun to tackle in some of our politics, but sort of lost our way in the last couple of years. What got started by Occupy kind of hasn't been picked up. So I hope I've been concise enough. I really have to say, and I'm sure we all feel this way, we fear for the future of our country with the amount of the power of the wealthy and the corporate interests in our country. And I say particularly with Donna here, but Donna, I say it wherever I go, we need a different politics. We absolutely, we want to make progress on all of these things, that we can do our work on the issues, but at the bottom, we will not make the kind of progress that we want to make if we don't have a fundamental change in politics of the country that we live in.